Kids who play sports here in the Valley, like football or soccer, there's a good chance that they have played or they do play on artificial turf. It is less expensive to maintain than traditional grass, but does it pose a health risk to our kids? Well, a new study finds that turf fields contain what are called forever chemicals. Maybe you've heard of that term, forever chemicals, PFAS, if you want to talk scientifically. Should kids be playing on artificial turf? Well, joining us this morning is Teddy Amenabar. He's with the Washington Post. He just recently published an article about this very issue. Teddy, good morning to you. Really appreciate you joining us. I want to ask you, first of all, about what your research found about the research on forever chemicals in the artificial turf, because it's all relatively new, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the reporting is really about this debate between proponents of turf and the critics. The critics say that the chemicals used in turf could eventually get off the field onto the people who are playing on those fields or also into the wider community. And proponents of turf just say that these are really small amounts of PFAS, forever chemicals, as you said, and that the evidence just isn't there that this poses a concern.
Well, let's kind of dive into that a little bit more, because we've seen artificial turf in the NFL for some time, but a lot of these studies are really taking a closer look at youth sports because no doubt our kids' bodies are still developing. So what I found interesting, though, as a sports parent myself, I happen to have a soccer goalie at my house. There was a study about soccer goalies. Can you tell us about that? And then number one, and then number two, the particular systems that scientists are looking into with regards to our kids and their health, like the endocrine system, for example.
Yeah. So about a decade ago now, there were some concerns about soccer players and especially soccer goalies who are getting really close to the turf field and the crumb rubber on the field. So oftentimes the infill on these turf fields are these recycled tires, this rubber, and we know that the crumb rubber can have these heavy metals or other concerning organic chemicals. And so coaches were raising concerns about cases of cancer in goalies, and that was about a decade ago. Fast forward to a few years ago, we've also found that PFAS, forever chemicals, are used in the manufacturing of many of these artificial turf fields. And so the critics of turf fields are also pointing to that as a sign, a concerning sign that maybe kids should not be playing on these fields. And as you were saying before, the concern is that these chemicals have somehow leach off the field, get into players, get into communities, and affect their endocrine system, which is, incredibly concerning for kids who are still developing. But again, the studies are still unclear. Really, it's more that the research is underway to try to ask this question and to better understand the answers here.
And real quickly, just want to ask you too about, the longitudinal studies, because really we don't have those. And so we may not see the actual effects for generations to come, right?
Yeah. Well, for at least 5 to 10 years. I mean, it just needs the researchers I talk to just say that they need time, they need funding. Yeah. So we have researchers at Mount Sinai and also a pilot study happening in Detroit at Wayne State University to get at these questions and basically ask, if you play on an artificial turf field, when you walk off the field, do you come off of it with some of these chemicals that are of concern? And really, we don't have an answer yet.
Yeah. Well, I will say here in the desert, water is a big concern for us, as you might imagine. And so turf fields don't require nearly the water it does to maintain a grass field. So we're constantly weighing those issues, to be sure. So, Teddy, thank you for bringing it to light. Really appreciate your time this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me.